Received generally negative reviews from critics. Yeah, no shit. I think this film has established a new low for David Gordon Green, and he's the same piece of shit who directed Halloween Kills, one of the dumbest movies ever created by a human being. So why am I getting so irritated?
I find it curious that I'm going to have to defend David Gordon Green a little bit because some people were very brutal. Now, I'm not defending Exorcist Believer in a strong way because I do think it was not a very good film. And I looked at things again and was like, okay, there were some good things I missed. But there were a lot of bad things I also missed, and I'm like, oh man, this is actually a lot worse than I remember. So I still think my basic score would be the same, but it might be bumped up 1 point because they did some interesting things with symbols. So we're going to hear James, who is usually very positive, but on this one he got extremely negative. I will only disagree a little bit, but I do think he went a little bit overboard or misinterpreted the film.
It's so unimaginably dumb and so out of left field. I was like, what? I was like, First and foremost, y'all paid how much money for her to appear in this movie for like this short a time, and you're gonna wrap up her big confrontation with that? I mean, it was like one of the greatest like missed opportunities creatively that you could possibly conceive of the human imagination, and I suspected it.
That is the basic problem, is that this is very bland, it's very calculated. It seems like they're trying something really new and interesting by having essentially the Avengers of religious people to attack the demon at the end. However, if you paid attention, within the first hour, you're given a lot of clues that yes, Victor and his daughter, they're safe, but the other family that's very religious, at least on the surface, they're going to lose. They're going to lose because they don't really believe, and they've got a lot of these abusive attitudes. There's just a lot of hints that they're really stupid and selfish. So there's no tension. We know, despite their efforts and their sacrifices, and yeah, there's some brave sacrifices that occur at the end that are impactful, but overall, we know ahead of time Angela is safe. The other girl, though, is not safe. But the way they did it is the father does something so stupid. He does something so jaw-droppingly stupid. It doesn't have a lot of weight because even this stupid character should know, no, don't do that. That's a demon. Don't trust a demon. But he does it anyway. So that killed the tension. There's really no tension in this film. And for this kind of horror movie, you really need it. And by the way, I looked up a David Gordon Green interview. He says, well, this is not really a horror film. And that's definitely true. This is not a horror film, but it's being advertised as a horror film. I think that's very deceptive, and I think that's the heart of why people are very angry with this film.
Years after the first movie, and we've taken so many steps back creatively. Like, where is the river of profanity that we heard Reagan scream back in the original film? Like, your mother sucks cocks in hell. I mean, all that crazy shit. Or where are the truly unspeakable acts performed at the crucifix? I mean, once again, the movie is 50 years old, and yet I feel like cinema right now is just so...
This is very much a bland corporate product. They got the franchise, they paid for it, and they're like, okay, let's do it. But there's no real risk. It feels risky on the surface. Like, oh, let's have atheism and these other faiths attack the demon, come together, and this kind of positive message of, well, faith is important, right? They play with, well, we don't need faith. No, faith is important, and Victor had faith, so he wins. But the way they did it is just so bland and generic. They have an R rating for this thing. There's really no need for an R rating. They could have just edited a few things. If we really only cared about the money, we'd go for PG-13. But we're doing an R rating, so, we might not get access to some markets. That's all calculated. So everything here is calculated. But they miscalculated that this is what people want. They just want a generic, bland Exorcist film. No, they want something risky. If you're going to be risky. Or if you're just going to repeat the original. But here they're being very shifty and shady. So I think marketing films, you have to be deceptive. But here I think it's a little too deceptive, a little too misleading, and they're feeling a backlash. But I don't think David Gordon Green is hostile or hates the original. I just don't think he has a passion for it. There's no real passion for it. So we're getting a very bland product. And some people are hating it, some people are loving it, but I think the love crowd is being a little too generous about what they're up to.
He overuses the kind of almost like what I would describe as like religious hysteria in this movie, as you have like 6 or 7 different people all screaming at once, trying to drive out the demon. And it's just the climax of this movie is just so fucking unwatchable. It is